I thought we had it all: love, trust, a future. But one night, I walked in on my wife with another man. The betrayal burned like acid, and rage took over. I confronted them, violence erupted, and my world shattered. Police sirens, a courtroom, and a broken marriage followed. I was a faithful husband, now a man scorned. This isn't just a tale of infidelity. It's a journey through rage, revenge, and redemption. My life became a chaotic storm, and this is how it all unfolded. This is my story. Brace yourself for the truth. Enjoy watching it. In the end, as enough time passed and I could look back with a bit of distance, it was just plain silly. There was no other reason, just someone jumping to conclusions, not checking the facts, and doing something terrible because she thought it was justified. Even after she figured out her mistake, her pride wouldn't let her admit she was wrong. She'd rather let hell freeze over first. I hope her pride keeps her warm at night and her ego stops her from seeing what she really is. A shallow, silly woman who only thinks, "What's in it for me?" Did it hurt? Absolutely. Was I mad? You bet. Was I over it? Mostly. It still stings when I see a family with small kids and think it should have been us swinging a little girl around while she laughs, or tossing a ball to a small boy and cheering him on when he catches it. But then again, I'm grateful to God, or karma, or just plain luck that it happened before we had kids. I can't stand the thought of being a part-time dad. We were young. Even now, 3 years later, I'm only 28, and she's 26. We got married when she was 21, and I had just turned 23. We had our dreams: the house, the kids, nice cars, the whole deal. Suburban heaven. Anita wasn't a supermodel, but she was very pretty. She had reddish blonde hair, green eyes, and a nice build. When she dressed up, guys lost their train of thought and bumped into things. People said I was good-looking in a rugged way. I was never the pretty boy type, but I was okay. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds, with almost no fat, pretty good muscles from my job and the gym, light brown hair worn long, and gray eyes. We made a handsome couple. We were also country folks in every way. It was the life we were brought up in. We valued family and hated promise breakers, especially with marriage vows. Most of our friends also married young, and they were already starting to split up. 3 divorces so far, mostly over money and cheating. We were pretty lucky. I started working 3 days after high school graduation at a new shop making small car parts. It paid well for someone with just a high school education, and I showed my thanks by always doing my best. I learned every machine, took all the overtime I could, even worked with the mechanics until I could set up the simpler machines by myself. I worked my way up and spent most of my time training new hires. I got noticed, especially after the shift manager caught a new employee on her cell phone. She was watching a little training video I made to help her understand her job. She showed it to him, and he checked with all the trainees. They all had their own files to pull up if they ran into problems. I got called into the office with the plant manager, the shift manager, and a woman from HR. Worried I had messed up, I waited for the bad news. "So, Bud, yeah, my name's Pretty Country. What do you have to say for yourself? Bonnie told us about your training video. You know you broke company rules by using cell phones, right? What do you think we should do?" I was scared, but then I got mad. My take has always been, when in doubt, fight back. Forget them. I was only trying to help the company. "I think you should let me put the videos on the workstation computer so they can use them on company-approved equipment. You have me training 3 to 4 people at a time, and it really helps them when I'm busy elsewhere. If that's a bad idea, you can go ahead and fire me." They were a bit surprised that I fought back, but they were planning to suggest the same thing. After everyone calmed down, I got a raise and was named training coordinator. Nita was thrilled. She had been working full-time and taking some classes at the local college to become a registered nurse. If she went full-time with her classes, she could finish in less than a year. We talked it over. We always talked about big decisions back then, and she decided to go part-time at work to focus on school. I took even more overtime, and a year later, me, both our parents, our siblings, and friends all sat in the auditorium as she graduated. She was the first one on either side of the family with a college degree. Even though I was a trainer, I still worked the night shift. It let me come in early to train the evening shift and stay late to work with the day shift. Plus, it gave me more time with my wife. Nita looked at several entry-level jobs, but the pay was low. She was told her wages would go up after she had a couple of years of experience. She talked to a couple of girls at different places and found out they often let nurses go right around the 2-year mark to hire someone cheaper. Then one day a friend had an accident, and we took her to the ER. They were swamped and short-staffed. Nita asked a nurse on a break why there weren't more nurses on duty. Can't find anyone willing to work the hours, especially weekend nights. Too bad, really. The pay is great. She applied, got an interview, and 2 weeks later she was working the night shift on weekends. And the nurse was right. The money was really good for someone just starting out. She was scheduled for 30 hours a week, but soon was working over 40. Between her job and mine, the money was rolling in. We decided early on not to change how we lived and saved the money instead. Our dream of getting a double-wide trailer and 4 acres of land was getting closer. A year passed. We learned to plan our time so we could be together as much as possible. We usually had breakfast together if I didn't have to work late, and our quality time was great. We managed to sleep a bit together every day. Life was good. Then I found something that could make our life even better. I had a friend, one of my best buddies, who was Mexican. He came to this country when he was 6. He had some trouble in school, so Billy and I helped him out since we all lived close to each other. He still struggled with some words, which is how he got his nickname. We were on the high school baseball team. I played third base, he was the catcher, and Billy played first base. A guy hit the ball into right field with the bases loaded. The outfielder made an amazing catch and threw it to Billy, who passed it to me so hard it almost knocked my glove off. I tagged and threw a fastball to Juan, who blocked home plate and got the guy out. A triple play, very rare in baseball. Juan tried to shout yippee, but it sounded like zippy, and that made us laugh so much that it became his nickname. Even though he was Hispanic, he was very into our redneck culture, down to the worn-out baseball cap and some chewing tobacco. He even had a rebel flag tattoo on his arm. He was a good guy, worked hard, helped his parents with bills because he still lived at home. He didn't drink much, was polite, and had just one big hobby, carp fishing. Carp fishing is a way people gamble on fishing. You go to a stocked pond, pay a fee, and fish. Carp isn't good to eat, but the goal is to catch one to win the hourly jackpot, the 24-hour jackpot, or the top prize, the weight fish. A weight fish is a fish of a specific weight picked at random. You pay an hourly fee to stay in the game, and if you catch a fish that weighs, say, 11 pounds and 10 ounces, the chosen weight, you win the jackpot. These jackpots can grow for weeks or even months. Sometimes they get to hundreds or thousands of dollars. It sounds expensive, and it is if you get into every jackpot. They even had a jackpot for the smallest carp caught every hour, and you could spend $100 or more in one night. It was too costly for me since I was saving for a house, but Zippy was single, made good money, and loved it. He won sometimes, but I think he lost more than he won overall. Every serious carp fisherman had his own special bait, and Zippy was no different. He mixed different things together, and it smelled so bad his mom wouldn't let him use the kitchen. He had just won a big jackpot, so he bought a small prefab shed. Billy and I helped him set it up. We even helped with the bait mixing sometimes, if we could stand the smell. The rotten chicken bait still makes me feel sick when I think about it. Billy went to college to become a pharmacist, planning to take over his dad's drugstore when he retired. One day we were sitting around, and Zippy was talking about his latest bait mix and how bad it smelled. Billy started talking about how different chemicals work together, and we couldn't keep up with what he was saying. What I'm saying, guys, if we can find the perfect mix of ingredients that attracts fish, we could make a lot of money. We thought about it and decided to try. Most of our first tests were big failures. I secretly think the first few mixes we made scared the fish away. I studied carp as much as I could, looking up information online while Nita worked. There was a lot of info out there. I found out they were scavengers and were attracted to heat, which I told the guys. Billy smiled and brought a chemical from the pharmacy the next week. It was a legal liquid that heated up when it mixed with the bait. We tested it the next week. Well, Zippy did. Billy and I weren't ready to spend money on fishing yet, with mixed results. The first few times, Zippy caught fish regularly, but then the bait started melting, and the fish got the bait without getting hooked. Still, he won 3 jackpots that night, largest fish of the hour and the night, and the weight fish. It was a good payout, almost $700. The bait was working well, so Zippy started rotating ponds, careful not to fish at the same place more than once every 3 weeks. Pond owners didn't like it if you won too much because other fishermen would leave. Zippy's mom helped us keep the bait on the line. She wouldn't go near the bait shed, but one night, as we talked about our problem in their backyard, she laughed and whispered something to his dad. Then she went inside and came back with a pair of pantyhose with a small run. "I'm giving you these to try. If it works, you can buy more." She used them to store garlic and onions from her garden. It worked. The bait stayed in the small ball of pantyhose but was still easy for the carp to bite. Once a fish was caught, Zippy would put on fresh bait and start again. We still had some misses. I had the idea to add ground chicken livers, along with the blood they came in, to the mix. Billy suggested using coffee grounds, something about balancing the chemicals. Zippy had the idea to use yellow grits to hold everything together. These additions really improved our results. Like many great finds, we stumbled upon the perfect mix by accident. Billy was helping his parents clean out a shed when his mom handed him a bag full of old cosmetics and perfumes to take to the dump. Billy had a bucket of fishing bait in his truck. Somehow, some perfume spilled onto the screen top of the bait bucket. He usually kept his bait in an old fridge to keep it fresh and then warmed it up in the bucket before using it. He went straight from the dump to the carp pond. To lessen the strong smell, he tried to mix the perfume into the bait as best as he could. The fish went wild. Carp fishing is hit or miss. You might get 2 bites right away at night, usually because carp don't bite as well in the heat of the day, and then nothing for hours. That night, he got 5 bites in 45 minutes and won the hourly prize. He went on to win 2 more prizes that night, and even took home the 24-hour prize for the biggest fish. The owners started getting suspicious, so he packed up and left. Billy was almost shouting when he called us the next morning. We met at the shed and he explained everything, including the perfume. We searched online and found that the perfume was still available and not too expensive. We made a new batch, guessing the amount of perfume, and Zippy tested it at another pond far away. The results were the same. He won 3 out of 4 hourly prizes and wisely left the pond. We got together and looked at a map of all the carp ponds in a 7-county area, surprised to see there were 51. Zippy showed us the ropes, taking us to a pond in the middle of the day when no one else was around. Billy and I bought a couple of simple fishing reels with 5.5-foot rods, as you were only allowed 2 rods in the water at a time. We looked like just regular guys who had no idea what they were doing, which was mostly true for Billy and me. We decided early on never to fish at the same pond at the same time and to move from one pond to another, not returning for at least a month. We didn't want to become too well known or form a pattern. The first night I went out, I bet I looked like a mess, but 7 hours later, I had won 4 hourly prizes, 3 for the biggest fish and 1 for the smallest. I made almost $600. Everyone thought it was just beginner's luck. Billy didn't do as well, but still won $400, and Zippy won $500. Together, we made nearly $1,500 in cash. Not bad for a night's work. We stored the money in a coffee can in the shed. 4 weeks later, we had $6,300, and the can was getting full. We agreed to split the money at the end of the fishing season. We hid our special bait in buckets of commercial carp bait, throwing the original bait away. One morning, Nita, my girlfriend, commented on my smell. "You smell terrible," she said. She knew about our fishing experiments because I told her everything. I laughed it off and took a long shower. Life was good then, but we got greedy. As the weather cooled, many ponds shut down for a few months, opening again when it got warm. We decided to fish as much as we could before it got too cold. We went out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. We didn't notice that we were being watched. Pond owners talked to each other, and Billy and I became known for our beginner's luck. Zippy stood out too, being one of the few Mexicans among mostly pale, overweight locals and winning a lot. Things were also getting tense at home. Nita was getting upset about how much time I was spending away from her. I hadn't told her how much money I was making, planning to surprise her when the season ended and we could start looking for a new house. I spoke with Billy and Zip, and we all decided to take a week off. Even Billy's wife was starting to get annoyed. We were still playing around with the bait, trying out different perfumes, so I'd often come home smelling like a new scent. The trouble started when Nita, my wife, went to Walmart for our weekly shopping. She ran into her friend Jane, who works as a cashier there. They were chatting about their lives when Jane leaned in to sniff. "What's that for?" Nita asked. "Just seeing what scent you're wearing today." Bud was here yesterday for his shopping. Between the perfumes, pantyhose, and condoms, it's amazing you can still walk. I'd love to be a fly on your wall one night. Nita didn't know what to say, so she just smiled and nodded. I had told her we found a way to keep bait on the hook, but didn't give her the specifics. When she got home, she tore the house apart looking for something, not knowing everything was at the bait shed. The condom idea happened by accident. Zippy grabbed the wrong bucket and didn't realize it until he got to the pond. He called Billy, who lived close by, to bring an extra bucket before he went to fish. Billy dropped off the bait but realized they didn't have the pantyhose. Zippy was about to give up when Billy had an idea. He went back to his truck and brought out a pack of condoms. "We're here. We might as well try," Billy said, smiling. After trying 3 times, they finally managed to tie it tightly to the hook with tiny cuts on the sides. It worked even better than the pantyhose, lasting longer. We all started carrying a pair of pantyhose and a dozen condoms in our trucks. Nita, full of jealousy, searched the house before I got home, and then checked my truck while I was asleep. Looking back, I can only imagine how she felt when she found 2 pairs of pantyhose and a pack of condoms with 2 missing. Billy's wife had given us a few pairs after they got runs in them, and Nita could tell they had been worn. She had a fierce temper and kept it under control most times, but today she lost it. I woke up to find my truck with 4 flat tires and a broken mirror. My fishing rods were in the driveway, crushed by her car. She left a note on the bathroom mirror written in lipstick. "You bastard! Gone fishing my butt. Just so you know, 2 can play this game, you jerk." I called her mom, her friends, even the hospital. No one had seen her, but a friend said she had called. What did she say? Nothing I would repeat. My advice is, if what she said is true, you better run. If it's not, you need to find her quick. This didn't help my mood. I kept trying to reach her until I had to go to work. I even borrowed a truck and called her during my breaks. By 4 a.m., I gave up and told my shift supervisor. He thought it was a good idea. "You've been off all night. I hope it's not catching." On the way home, I stopped at Walmart and bought 2 new reels and 2 strong fishing rods. I still wanted to go fishing that weekend if I could calm Nita down. Maybe telling her about the money we were making would help, or maybe even getting her to come with me would ease her worries. I noticed a fancy car parked outside our place. People often parked in odd spots when visiting the apartments. It stood out among the old cars and trucks, but Nita's car was there too, so I was relieved. With my bags in one hand and the rods in the other, I opened the door and heard sounds from inside. "That's it, baby. Right there. How do you like this now, big boy?" It was Nita's voice, along with some guys grunting. A reasonable man might have gathered evidence first. A smart man would have planned something. A coward would have left quietly. But I was never known for my thinking skills. The last guy who called me a coward has to remember every day that it wasn't a good idea. I reacted quickly and violently. I kicked the bedroom door down and saw my loving wife and some guy in bed. She was on top of him, and I looked right into her eyes. She turned pale, then red. "How's it feel, motherfucker? Sucks being cheated on, huh? Now you—" She didn't finish because I slapped her so hard she fell off the bed. I recognized the guy. He was an ER doctor known for chasing women. Nita once said she couldn't stand him because he had ruined 2 marriages, and the administration had warned him to stay away from married women. Looks like he didn't listen. He got up trying to act tough. He was a gym regular and bragged about his black belt. "Calm down, dude." She came on to me. "Is it my fault you can't keep her happy? I'm getting my clothes and leaving. Looks like the fun is over, at least for tonight. Move out of my way and you won't get hurt. You don't want to get your ass kicked by the guy who just slept with your wife. That would be too embarrassing. Keep some dignity and move." I looked down at his groin, surprised to see he was just average. I thought his attitude would make them as big as grapefruits. He must have seen it in my eyes and got into a fighting stance. I was so mad I forgot I still had the rods in my hand. One night at a pond, I saw a guy trying to catch a huge fish. His friend was helping him when the line broke and the rod snapped back. It hit his friend right on the cheek, and the mark stayed all summer. People who like to cause pain should try a rod. They'd throw away every whip they have. He never saw it coming. Who uses a fishing rod as a weapon? I was either good or lucky because my first swing hit him right between his legs. He screamed high-pitched, The rod whipped back, and he tried to cover his private parts, so the next hit caught his knuckles. Then, I hit his neck and he fell, lying face down, still trying to protect his crotch. I hit him 2 more times when I heard a gun cock. "Stop now or I'll shoot you. You have no right to act this way after what you did." She held my Colt Python, the same gun Rick uses in The Walking Dead. It had .357 rounds in it. My anger disappeared. "So it's not enough you sleep with a guy in our home, on our bed, now you threaten me with a gun. I hope it was worth it because we are done." For the first time, she looked unsure, then scowled. "I'll say when we're done. This was just some punishment, but if you don't behave, it'll happen more. Now let him go. Be happy I'm not asking you to say sorry." I looked down at him, trying to crawl out the door, then up at her and grinned. "Forget it. Pull the trigger." Her eyes got wide, probably the last thing she expected me to say. I didn't hit the guy with the rod again, but kicked him out every time he tried to stand up. The door was open, and a crowd was outside, drawn by the noise. They scattered fast when Nita fired. I didn't feel anything. No blood, so she must have missed. "Next time we'll be in your bottom," she screamed, pointing the gun at me again. I saw a hole in the ceiling. Good thing all the homes were 1 story. A neighbor had called the cops when the shouting started, and they were just getting out of their car when she made the threat. Their guns came out, and they crouched behind the car. Must have been some sight. She was naked outside by now, holding that big gun. Her lover tried crawling to his car, still naked, but when the shot went off, he put his hands over his head, not knowing who held the gun, and begged me not to kill him, apologizing for what he did with my wife. I was dressed, hands in the air. I bet the cops replayed their body cam footage for months. The cops screamed at Nita, she screamed at me, and the guy screamed he was sorry and begged not to be shot. Nita wavered, looking at the cops and me. She pointed the gun at the cops, and I grabbed her, knowing they were close to shooting her. She dropped the gun, and I tossed it to the cops, pinning her to the ground. We were cuffed almost immediately. In the end, we all got taken to jail. I was charged for hitting the doctor, as well as domestic violence for slapping Nita. She was charged with assault on a police officer with a deadly weapon, making threats, being naked in public, and shooting the gun inside the city. They couldn't pin anything on the doctor, so they let him go. His wife had to pick him up and brought him clothes. She divorced him, named Nita in the case, and tried to sue the hospital, so it all became public. I agreed not to press charges for threatening me with a gun if Nita dropped the assault charge. She agreed reluctantly, not wanting more publicity. The doctor could have made things worse for me, but he disappeared. His wife took nearly a year to find him working in a clinic overseas. She got most of their money, but he had to pay child support. All in all, I dodged a bullet, pun intended. The DA decided he didn't want this mess and let us go. Nita had to do anger management classes and 200 hours of community service for pointing the gun at cops. My friends Zip and Bill bailed me out using our fishing money. I didn't bail Nita out. Her family had to. It gave me time to go home, pack my stuff, and leave. Nita didn't contact me for 3 weeks. I guessed she was waiting for me to apologize. When I didn't, she called, dripping with sarcasm and ordering me home. As loving as that invitation is, I think I'll pass. Don't call me anymore, Anita. We're done. I don't know what made you act that way. I never cheated on you. Not once. I don't care what you heard, thought, or imagined. I will never trust you again, and I'd have to sleep with one eye open if I came back. She knew she was in trouble when I called her Anita instead of Nita. Her tone changed quickly. Look, I may have made a mistake here. Why don't you come home, and we'll talk like adults? No, wait, let me think. No, hold on, while I give it serious thought. Hell no, I said angrily, hanging up the phone. I didn't answer any calls until the next day. I knew she was getting served at 2, and at 2:30 my phone rang. It was her, of course, crying instead of yelling. I told her gently that I was sorry, but I couldn't go back to her. I'm sorry, Anita, I really am, but I can't get over how you wrecked our marriage. This is the only way forward. Please don't fight it. She fought it and delayed it as long as she could. Finally, the judge got tired of it. I never showed up for the proceedings. I didn't see the point. Maybe I should have, because the judge ordered marriage counseling, 1 session each, and 10 together. I made sure to stipulate that if, at the end of counseling, I still wanted the divorce, it would happen without any problems. If not, I would ignore the order and risk going to jail. The judge listened to my reasons and looked sad, realizing he was wasting his time, but he agreed and told Anita to comply. She picked the counselor. He was a young man in his 30s. I had a question during our private session. "How long have you been doing this?" He smiled. "Longer than you think. This is my 6th year." "Are you good at it?" He seemed a bit surprised but proud. "Really good. One of the best. My success rate is one of the highest in the state." I frowned. What if I told you I wasn't here for a reconciliation? That I was only here because it seemed like the only way to get the divorce to go through? If you think you can make me change my mind about my wife, you'll find it hard to convince me. The first time I think you're not being fair, we're done. I checked your record and saw 4 complaints, 3 from men and 1 from a woman, saying you care more about your numbers than resolving issues. Oh, look, time's up. See you next Thursday, 6 sharp. He looked stunned, like a fish caught in a net. The first 2 sessions were tough. He told us to sit together on a small couch facing him. I chose a recliner. I could see he wasn't happy. The first hour was about her and the little mistake she made. The second session was the same. When she started again, I pulled out a newspaper and started reading. They both looked surprised. "What are you doing?" he asked. "If I wanted reruns, I'd watch old TV shows. For 2.5 hours, you've let her talk without pushing her to focus. If that's what you want, fine. Carry on. I'll just sit here and read." He looked angry. "But if you don't—" I cut him off. "We're not friends. Call me Mr. Hart if you want to address me. I don't call you by your first name, do I?" He looked confused. "Sorry, Mr. Hart. I'm trying to build a connection with you. But you have to participate or I'll tell the judge." I shrugged. "Tell him. My lawyer checked the paperwork and it says I have to attend. It doesn't say anything about participating, so why don't you stop here?" That session ended quickly. The counselor told the judge, who called me in saying I had to make an effort. "Let me be clear. I'm not saying you have to take her back, that's your choice, but you might want to listen to understand what happened. It might help you in future relationships." He was a sharp old guy, which is why he was a judge. I prepared for the next session. I handed Anita and the counselor, Bob, a sheet of paper. "What's this?" they asked. "It's a record of all the times I was fishing when she thought I might be cheating. The fishing club keeps good records of when I arrived and left. If you think I was having romantic rendezvous at a carp pond, think again. The smell isn't exactly romantic." I looked at her. "Maybe I should have explained about the condoms and pantyhose, but I didn't see a need. You didn't listen when I told you about my hobbies. I trusted you even when you went out with your friends or shopped. I didn't think you were cheating. I trusted you. So I didn't check up on you or search your car. If I had thought something was wrong, I would have talked to you. Why couldn't you do the same? We'd still be together, house shopping and talking about kids. Instead, we're here with a stranger, spilling our secrets. At least you are. The less I speak, the calmer I am. This is nobody's business but ours, and I hate that we're here." It was the longest I had talked during the sessions. They were stunned and took a minute to react. Then my phone beeped. "Oh, look, time's up. See you next week." I was out the door before they could react. I sensed a change at our next session. Something was different. Anita stared right into my eyes, but she wasn't crying. "You talked last week? Now it's my turn?" I nodded. It felt like we might be making some progress. "I understand now. We can never be together again. I broke it and it can't be fixed. But I need you to know what I was thinking. You were the perfect husband. You didn't drink much. You had a good job and you didn't cheat on me. I was proud of you." At work, most of the younger nurses were either divorced or cheating. I was so lucky we had the same work hours. Most of them were having affairs because their husbands were using the weekends to hook up with others, mostly out of revenge. "I bragged about you so much. Then you started fishing. Soon you weren't home while I worked. I trusted you at first, but then you went fishing more often. Our time apart grew, and my friends kept saying things like, 'He's got a girlfriend.' Then a week before it all fell apart, one friend told me she saw you with another woman. You were laughing and even hugged her. I wanted to ask you about it, but I was too scared of what you'd say. Then Jane mentioned the perfumes, condoms, and pantyhose. What else was I supposed to think? You know I've always had to manage my temper, but this time I couldn't. I just wanted to hurt you as you hurt me. So I hooked up with Dr. Sleaze. He was there and willing. Even then, I wasn't going to tell you. It was going to be my little secret, a way to deal with my thoughts about you cheating. Then you came home early and everything fell apart. You weren't supposed to be there. You were never supposed to know. I was so ashamed until my anger took over. Only the shock of you slapping me calmed me down. Even when you were hitting the doctor with that fishing rod, I knew we were done. I only pulled out your revolver to stop you from killing him. But I was still so angry, and I almost pulled the trigger. When you looked at me and told me to pull the trigger, I knew I didn't matter to you anymore. Just like that, the rage started to go away. I was still confused when the cops arrived. I even thought about shooting at them so they would end my pain. She paused, wiped her eyes, and drank some water. I tried to say something, but she stopped me. Then we all went to jail. It broke my heart again when you refused to get me out and left. Then the doctor's wife came and things got worse. When she sued the hospital, everything came out. My friends, my family, they all knew something happened, but now they knew the details. It was a lonely time for me. You were gone, my friends were gone, and the management at the hospital wasn't happy with me. They kept me because I was a good nurse, but the joy I got from my job was gone. So here we are. I messed up, and even though I'd do anything to fix it, I know you. You're a strict person, and I always admired you for that. I've made a decision. These sessions stop today. I give up, Bud. Before I could say anything, she was out the door and gone. I looked at the counselor. Should I go after her? Only if you're worried she might hurt herself. Otherwise, I would leave her be. She's already started her healing process. I would just let her be. So we got divorced. She was surprised at how much I'd saved for our house. She had a rough idea, but always trusted me, so she didn't worry about it. I made sure she got half. Of course, we left our old apartment. The owners weren't happy about someone shooting holes in their property. I got a small studio closer to work that suited me well. Anita moved in with another nurse, saying it was cheaper, and she hated an empty house. Everyone told me to start dating again, but I wasn't ready. I was hurt and bitter. I snapped at a few women until I realized that I didn't like how I was acting. I got help. This time the counselor was a woman. I felt uneasy at first, but she made me feel comfortable. So I told her about me and Anita and how I was acting towards women in general. I think maybe I'm turning into a guy who hates women, I said. She laughed. I don't think that's true, or you wouldn't have agreed to see me. You would have seen me as just another woman trying to mess up your world. Here's what I think. Even though you're divorced, you still love your wife. I also think as much as you'd like to take her back, you can't. Not now, anyway. Your attitude towards women is a result of your pain. It may not seem like it, but life will get better. You're too much of a gentleman to continue reacting this way towards women. Soon you'll realize they didn't hurt you and you'll treat them well again. Anything else you want to talk about? I saw her 6 times. I learned that I didn't communicate as well as I should and that I was still a bit immature and selfish. I admitted these things and tried to change. She also told me to share my story, including my faults, with whoever I end up with. If she loves me, it will be enough. I calmed down. 4 months later, my boss called me into the office. There was a man there I had never seen before who turned out to be a vice president. After the introductions and small talk, he got to the point. We have 11 locations in this country, and this one has the best efficiency rate of all. Being a smart man, I looked into it, and everyone pointed to you. We're having a lot of trouble with our plant in Alabama, and we're not happy with the performance at our Kentucky facility. We want to offer you a job as a traveling trainer. We'll send you to any of our places that need help to see if you can fix the problems and give advice. There will be a big pay raise, your housing and travel will be covered, and there will even be bonuses based on how quickly things improve. This is a test program, and we're only giving this chance to 2 people. The other person is in California and will handle everything on that side of the Mississippi River. You get everything on this side. Think about it, and we'll try it if you're interested. 4 days later, I was on a plane to Alabama, where a man with a company truck picked me up at the airport. We drove to the short-term apartment complex that would be my home for the next 10 weeks. The mechanical and training parts of the job were easy, and production improved right away. But the work environment was not good. Managers didn't trust their staff or the maintenance team. The second shift supervisor was a huge problem, questioning everything, making unnecessary changes, slowing down production, and blaming the workers. 7 weeks in, the vice president who hired me called. "I see you're making progress. Good job. But it's not as much as I hoped for. Any issues I should know about?" I hesitated, and he noticed. "Look, I didn't hire you to tattle, but if something is hurting our efficiency, you need to tell me, whether it's people or equipment. It's part of your job, and since you work directly for me now, you're outside the normal chain of command, so there will be no backlash, understand?" "Yes, sir. Okay, you need to make some changes, especially on the second shift. The environment is tense and production is suffering. You need to get management to relax and stop hovering. If people know their jobs, they don't need constant supervision. Trust them, and it will pay off." There was silence before he chuckled. "Well, I did ask for the truth. Let me see what I can do." 2 days later, the second shift manager was sent to my base plant to observe operations for 2 weeks as part of a new training plan. To my surprise, I was made interim manager. Production went up 17% in the second week. I'd like to say the manager came back with a new attitude, but he returned to his old ways in a month. I went back for 3 weeks to train the new manager. Then I was off to Kentucky for 6 weeks. They were pretty good, so it didn't take long for things to get better. Word had spread that I was close to my boss, and bad things happened to those who didn't cooperate, so it was much easier for me to get things done. My bank account was growing quickly. When everything you needed except food was paid for, there wasn't much else to spend money on. I figured in another year I'd start looking for a house. The week I came back from Kentucky, Billy and Zippy called me for a business meeting. After the divorce, we were banned from fishing at the local ponds, so Zippy had to travel to fish. Zip's mom suggested, "You can't make money from fishing anymore. Why not try making money from the bait? You don't have to sit by a smelly pond for hours, just sit back and watch the money come in." We named the bait after her in thanks. We got a lawyer Billy's dad knew, got the formula protected, and set up the business. Mama Rosilta's Magic had a picture of her on the front of the package. She laughed when she saw it. "This is my shot at fame. My face on a bucket of smelly bait?" We started small with a few local bait shops and carp ponds carrying it. Business was slow at first, but picked up to the point where we couldn't keep up. Our lawyer found us a bigger building, and we got mixers through a bakery supply company. Huge ones that could mix a couple 100 pounds at a time. We bought grits, chicken livers, and perfume wholesale. Coffee grounds were tricky until Billy thought of giving coffee to homeless shelters and soup kitchens in exchange for the grounds. The other 3 ingredients were a secret. Zippy mixed them in his old bait shed and delivered them to our factory in unmarked bags. We ran 2 shifts and still struggled to meet demand. When people found out the bait worked well on catfish, our sales exploded. We knew we had made it big when Walmart came calling. We'd heard enough horror stories about doing business with them that when they told us we'd have to expand and produce 5 times more, we politely declined, shocking them. We signed a contract with a major sporting goods store for all of our product for 2 years, with a guaranteed order for 3 times our production. The contract gave us 3 months to ramp up, so we found another building, got bigger mixers, and were off to the races. The building housed 160 mixers that could handle 500-pound batches. It had gotten so big that Zippy quit his old job and became the manager. His mother also joined, quitting her old job as an office manager for a law firm, and ran the business side, earning twice what she made before. We became an LLC. Zippy owned a third, Billy owned a third, and I owned 20% as a silent partner. Mama Rosie owned 10% of the business. Without her, we wouldn't even be here. That part she owned guaranteed she could stay with us. I hadn't been home in 8 months. I'd been moving from one factory to another as needed for over a year and a half. I even got to work near Kansas City. Everyone in the company knew I loved BBQ. I had t-shirts from different places I'd visited. I liked mustard-based sauce in Alabama and a spicy brown sugar tomato style in Kentucky. Each state had its own mix, and often, if you traveled just 30 miles, you'd find a new blend that people claimed was the best. I decided to visit my favorite BBQ place and wore my Kansas City shirt. The owner almost threw me out. I had to explain it was a free shirt and remind him that everyone knew his BBQ was the best. He let me stay and even gave me one of his shirts, making me promise to wear it when I visited other BBQ spots and to send pictures. I saw her come in. Anita didn't notice me, so I got to take a good look at her. She was thinner, and her hair was shorter and more blonde than I remembered. It suited her tan. She'd always loved the sun. She was with 2 girls and a guy. To avoid awkwardness, I walked over after they sat down. She was laughing, but it stopped when she looked up. "I didn't want to bother you or your friends, Anita. I just didn't want it to be awkward when you saw me, so I thought I'd say hello. Nice haircut. It looks good on you. Enjoy your meal." She touched her hair and smiled a little. "Thank you, Bud. You look pretty good, too. Travel must suit you. When you travel as much as I do, you have to choose between bars or the gym. I was never much of a drinker." "I'll let you eat now. Anita, it's good to see you again." Her eyes got big when I called her by her nickname, and she nodded as I went back to my table. 3 minutes later, she was standing next to me, holding her plate. "Can I sit with you? We were going to get it to go, but I think I'd like to stay a while." I stood and pulled out a chair for her. So we ate and talked. Really talked. She surprised me by saying she had left the hospital and got an office job with regular hours. The pay wasn't as good, but she had enough experience now to do okay. She also told me she saw a therapist once a month to keep her anger in check. I told her about my sessions, which surprised her. Anita finally asked the question that must have been on her mind. "Are you seeing anyone?" I laughed. "Not seriously. Hard to have a relationship when you're always on the road. I wouldn't be fair to anyone." She smiled. "Me neither. With my schedule, it was hard to date unless it was someone from work. And, well, you know." She stopped, looking embarrassed. I took her hand. "You don't need to bring up bad memories. The past is the past. How about now? You have normal hours, so you should have plenty of time." She admitted she had dated a few men but hadn't found anyone worth staying with for long. She changed the subject and asked about my shirt, so I told her about the places I'd visited and the strange foods I'd eaten. Barbecued alligator wasn't bad. Armadillo, not so much. Ostrich was pretty good, and mutton from Kentucky was tasty. She made faces at my stories and giggled. She looked down at her watch. "Oh no, I'm late. I have to go. Thanks for spending time with me, Bud. It was really good to see you." Before I knew it, she kissed me and said, "Call me when you're in town." After she left, I noticed she had left a business card with her number on the back. I thought about it for a while before putting it in my wallet. We saw each other now and then when I was home. I think she wanted to get closer, but I couldn't. She stopped trying for a while and started seeing another nurse from a different office. I still traveled and went to the gym but started taking online classes. I wanted to be more than just a traveling trainer. My boss found out and had the company pay for the classes, saying it was an investment. I had some community college credit, so I got my degree in business management in 2.5 years. I got my diploma in the mail but felt sad not to have someone to share it with. Then my boss called me to the corporate office. He introduced me to my replacement. "You've done a great job. Now that you have your degree, it's time for a change. The manager at your home facility is retiring and I need someone new. It could be you. The production manager is getting older too, so eventually his position will open up. Think about it. I need an answer in 2 months so I can find someone else if you're not interested. Think about it. And in the meantime, Jones here is going to travel with you. I always need more trainers." I thought about it and decided it would be good for me. I was tired of the road. It was fun for a while, but I liked the idea of waking up with the same roof over my head every day. I almost fell in love. She was from Alabama, a bright redhead with a body a lot like my ex, except her eyes were a lot brighter. She was a production scheduler, and we often worked together when I was there. We got to talking about hobbies, and she revealed she loved to fish. She even had a boat. She said it with a smirk, and I got the story out of her. Her husband, besides being unfaithful, was an avid fisherman and had a top-of-the-line Ranger bass boat with all the extras. When she finally confronted him and they divorced, she gave up other things to get his boat, wanting to hurt him as much as she could. It sat for a year before she finally decided to use it and was instantly hooked. She didn't like bass fishing, though. She fished for the big catfish in the nearby lake. Her current record was 28 pounds. I casually asked what kind of bait she used. This was before we signed with the sporting goods store, so we were strictly local. The next time I came down, we made a date to take her boat out that weekend. I had brought 5 pounds of our bait. Catfishing is a lot like carp fishing. It's best at night. We put in a couple of hours before sunset and just cruised the lake. Molly caught me looking at a couple of girls on another boat and peeled off her t-shirt to reveal a pretty swimsuit top. She laughed at my open mouth. Think you can keep your eyes in the boat from now on? Most definitely. We pulled into the mouth of a cove, one of her favorite fishing spots, anchored, dropped our lines in the water, and opened a beer. 40 minutes and 3 beers later, she got bored. The boat had very nice, oversized fishing chairs, and she climbed into one on my lap with a playful smile. I think we need to take this opportunity to get to know each other better, don't you? I was all for that, but made a token protest. What about the fish? Forget the fish. I got the drag set. We'll know if we get a bite. We spent the evening getting to know each other, sharing stories and laughs. The drag on one of the rods started clicking, then it started screaming. She ignored it until she jumped for the rod, fighting what seemed like a huge fish. Grab the net! Grab the net! It took her another 30 minutes to get it close enough to the boat to net. I took one look, dropped the net, and grabbed a gaff. I got it hooked and we put a few more in it to make sure it didn't get off. Holy cow, that thing is huge! I bet it weighs 50 pounds. Then she looked down and giggled. Sorry, baby, but I promised I will make it up to you. I surprised her by playfully giving her a pat. She squealed, laughed, and reached for me when another rod went double. We caught 8 fish in 90 minutes, the smallest a mere 19 pounds. We motored slowly to a marina, one famed for its scales. The guys nearly flipped when she showed them the fish she would like weighed. 8 fish, the biggest weighing 69 pounds, a new lake record. They kept that particular fish in a specially designed live well until the state could send someone out to verify it. The marina would get a lot of attention as people came to see the fish for the next 2 days. Molly got a write-up in the local and state papers, an article in the state wildlife magazine, and a television interview. I got a mention as her fishing companion. When asked what bait she used, she only said it was a commercial bait that could be bought anywhere, and she was just going to let people figure out which one on their own. She kept her promise to make the interrupted night up to me, and on subsequent visits, we had great times both fishing and spending time together. She was funny, full of energy, good at conversation, and a delight to be around. I was just about ready to ask for a more serious relationship when she canceled a date, and I saw her at a restaurant later with another man. They were close, holding hands and laughing, clearly not just friends. I didn't see her at all that weekend or the following week at work. She had taken some vacation time. The next month, she was all over me and noticed how distant I was. She sighed. You saw me, didn't you? Yes, but don't worry about it. We hadn't made any commitments. I would have preferred to hear it from you, but it's okay. Look, I'm sorry. Brad, you know, I've noticed many guys named Brad seem to cheat. Someone should write a paper on that. Anyway, he's my usual boyfriend. He got some unexpected time off after being away for almost a year doing contract work overseas. We both know we'll get married someday. He understands how much I enjoy intimacy, and I'm aware that he has needs too. So we made an agreement. Whatever we do or whoever we see while we're apart is private, and we don't need to know about it. You are a lot of fun, Bud, and you're almost as good as Brad when it comes to technique. I'd like to keep seeing you. He won't be back for another 8 months. I told her thanks, but no thanks. While Brad might not mind, I did. So we went back to being just friends. I wished her well, but never got physical with her again except when we fished, and I helped her with the big catches she was pulling in. She had guys following her around on the water, trying to figure out how she was catching such big fish while they weren't catching anything. Some even searched her boat, but she kept the bait locked up in a small fridge in her dad's garage. She ended up breaking her own state record by catching a 77-pound fish. She sent me a picture with the fish, and it was taller than she was. A guy stood beside her, smiling. Must be Brad. They looked happy. She continued to win several tournaments until the bait hit local stores, and she lost her advantage. By that time, I was back home to settle down. I used some of my money to buy a nice house in the country on 8 acres. It even had a decent-sized pond. The property came with a small tractor and some tools, so I kept the fields mowed and planted a small garden. I still dated. I was a pretty eligible bachelor for the area. But I hadn't found anyone I thought I could spend the rest of my life with. That all changed one day when I came home to find 2 people sitting on my porch. It was Anita and a little girl who looked about 8. The girl looked a lot like Anita. Hi. Anita said as they got up from the porch swing. I love your house from what I've seen of it. I'm here to ask a favor, not for me, but for Annie here. She wants to learn how to fish, and I can't think of anyone better to teach her. Please? She gave me puppy dog eyes, and it surprised me how much it affected me. Annie stared at me, looking hopeful. Even though she smiled, there was a sadness in her eyes. I wondered what that was about. Well, what did I have to lose? Did she bring her fishing rod? Anita beamed. No, we didn't know what to get. Don't you have some around here? By the time we were ready to fish, I looked like a pack mule. We needed chairs, a cooler for drinks, and, of course, rods and reels. I gave Annie one of my spare rods, just small enough for her to handle. I put a heavy weight on it first and made her cast across the field until she got the hang of it. She looked so serious it was almost funny. Then I baited the hook with a worm from the garden, put a cork on it, and showed her where to cast. There were a lot of bream in the pond, so I knew she would catch something eventually. Anita rocked on the chair, sipping iced tea and smiling. She had that look I recognized and made me wonder what her plan was. She was 28 now, just hitting her prime, and it showed. I wondered who would wear a sundress to go fishing when Annie squealed. She had caught a fish, and it looked like a good one by the way the rod was bending. I was next to her in an instant, telling her what to do. Anita was up too, cheering her on. Annie had caught a crappie. I didn't even know there were crappie in my pond. It was a good size, excellent for eating. When I told her that, she demanded we keep it. I promised I would if she would eat it. It seems little Annie was a natural fisherman because she ended up with 9 big enough to eat. I asked when she would like her fish fry. Tonight? She asked. Don't you have to get home? She looked sad again, and Anita hugged her. She can stay a little if you want to fry her fish. There were those puppy dog eyes again, now in stereo. Annie didn't seem bothered as I cleaned the fish, putting them into lemon water while we prepared the sides. Anita took over my kitchen and soon had Annie standing on a chair, watching her make hush puppies and tartar sauce. I got to make the slaw and lit my gas grill, putting corn on to roast and using the side burner to heat the oil. Annie watched me dredge the fish in milk and egg wash before dipping them into seasoned flour. When it was time to fry, I told her to stand back because of the hot oil. Anita let her set the picnic table and pour tea while she took the corn off the grill. It took very little time to fry 9 crappie into golden brown pieces. I had to show Annie how to avoid the bones. She ate like she was starving, 4 crappie, an ear of corn, and coleslaw. She also ate about 6 hush puppies. I wondered where all that food was going. Anita let Annie rest on the couch while she cleaned up and I put away the fishing gear. I sat on the porch swing listening to Anita sing in the kitchen, watching little Annie sleep on my couch. Tears slid down my cheeks. This should have been my life. I felt a tug on my sleeve. Annie had gotten up and was standing in front of me. Without thinking, I scooped her up and put her on my lap, gently swinging. She squirmed around until she got comfortable and fell back to sleep. I felt her presence before I saw her. As I looked up through the screen door, I could see she was crying. She didn't say a word, just turned around. 10 minutes later, she returned with 2 cups of coffee, setting them on the side table. She sat on the swing, nestled close to me while she played with Anita's hair. It felt comforting. I enjoyed the moment before speaking. Do you want to tell me what's happening here? Remember my sister Jan? This is her daughter. She and her husband split up and he vanished about 7 years ago, right after Annie was born. Jan had a good job, so she stayed and raised her daughter. Then, out of the blue, her husband came back and wanted to make things right. But Jan was engaged and laughed at him, saying he would never be Annie's dad because she already had one waiting. He tried for a few weeks, but Jan got a restraining order. One night, he got drunk, broke in, and shot Jan and her fiancé while Annie was asleep. She woke up to the sound of gunshots and called 911. Social services were about to take her when we stepped in. Mom can't take care of a little girl, so I asked to be her legal guardian and got accepted. She's my little girl now. I thought about it for a while. When I found out you had stopped traveling, I knew it was the perfect solution. She needs a dad, and I can't think of a better man than you. She already trusts you more than anyone else. I was stunned when she crawled into your lap. You two look so right together, natural, you know? So I'm asking, not just for me, but for both of us. Be a part of our lives. Share a piece of your heart, especially with her. I know I can't win you back, but even a small part of your life would make me very happy. Please, Bud." I don't know exactly when my arm went around her shoulders, but I held her close while a child was in my lap. We fell asleep during the snuggle. I woke up to see Annie looking at me, smiling. "I need to go to the bathroom." I woke Anita, and she took Annie to the bathroom. I checked my watch and was surprised it was almost midnight. That was going to mess with the little girl's sleep schedule. Anita came out of the bathroom, smiling. "It's too late to go home. Annie's taking a bath. That tub is huge. I need some t-shirts for nightgowns, and you need to get the guest bedroom ready. She's excited about having a sleepover." I fluffed the pillows, made sure there were enough blankets, and turned down the bed. Annie came in wearing my shirt that almost reached her ankles. "Can you tuck me in and tell me a story while I wait for Anita?" "Sure," I said, tucking her in. "Gotta kiss me goodnight," she said sleepily. So I did. Just then, Anita entered with a big grin. I felt like a fish caught on a hook. Her t-shirt fit her better, coming down a few inches above her knees. She slid under the covers to snuggle with Annie. "Did she get a goodnight kiss? Where's mine?" It was a sweet and gentle kiss. She brushed my cheek when it was over. "You're still the best man I ever knew. Good night." I didn't sleep much that night thinking about Anita and Annie. Deep down, I realized I still loved Anita. Would it be worth trying again? These thoughts swirled through my head until I finally fell asleep. When I woke up, the house was empty. That was a bit disappointing. Well, time to get back to work. I was in my garden when they pulled up the driveway. Annie was out of the car in a flash, running to me. I barely caught her when she jumped into my arms. "We're here for the weekend. Isn't that great? What are we going to do? Mom says we might go to the zoo if I'm good. I'll be very good, I promise." "What's that? What are you doing?" I looked up at a smiling Anita. "Well, can we stay?" "You're not playing fair," I said. Her smile grew bigger. "I'll take that as a yes. And honey, all's fair in love and war. This isn't war. I'm going to unpack our bags. Want to come, Annie?" "No. Uncle Bud is going to teach me about the garden." "All right, sweetie. I'd say don't get too dirty, but why bother?" She turned and walked to the house, softly singing. Annie stayed with me for an hour. I showed her how to tie up tomatoes so the fruits don't touch the ground. She fetched a basket from the shed, and I let her pick some squash, tomatoes, and corn. I saw a small green snake in the corn and pointed it out to her. She wanted to hold it, but I said it wouldn't like it. But I did let her carry 2 turtles we found back to the pond. She carried the basket back to the house, proudly showing Anita what she'd picked. We washed up, and Anita made us ham and cheese sandwiches using the tomatoes Annie had picked. Then Annie took a bubble bath, dressed in fresh clothes, and told us she was going to take a nap in her room, but to wake her if we did something exciting. I promised we would. Anita was cleaning the kitchen, so I walked back to the porch and sat in the swing. I liked to rock when I thought. She joined me quietly when she finished. About 20 minutes later, Anita spoke. "I can't change what I did, Bud. I wished many times I could. You were everything to me. You don't know how it felt when I thought you didn't love me anymore. You were my world, and then you weren't." She sighed, rocked a little longer, then started talking again. "I was young and foolish, Bud. I was hurt and angry, and I made bad choices because of it. But I'm not that girl anymore. I'm a grown woman now, with a child to care for. I never got over you, and I never will. My child needs a dad, and you're the best person for that. I need a partner, a strong, kind man who will be there for me and love me for who I am. That's you, Bud. It's always been you. I just forgot. I know you've forgiven me, but I also know you'll never forget what happened. There might always be a part of you that wonders if I'll hurt you again. Let me tell you, I won't. I'd rather die than hurt you again. I'm not asking for a decision now, honey. I'm just asking for a chance. If you say no in the end, I'll leave and never bother you again. You don't have to say anything now unless you want to. Just think about it." I looked at her with a serious face. I saw her eyes fill with fear. "I do have something to say, or ask, actually. What time should we leave for the zoo tomorrow?" Her eyes grew wide, and then she smiled a little. "We need to leave early, honey. She's never been, so she'll want to see everything. I'll pack us a picnic. The food there is mostly junk, and I want our daughter to eat healthy." "What about dessert?" "Ice cream if you both behave. We also need to go shopping later. You don't have much food here." I was about to explain my single-man eating habits when Annie came out, rubbing her eyes. She came straight to me and climbed into my lap. I looked at Nita, who was smiling again. "What are we going to do now?" "We're going grocery shopping. We need supplies for the zoo. You can stay here if you want." "No way. He's coming with us, aren't you, Uncle Bud?" "Well, I'd put it to a vote, but I'd lose. So, grocery shopping it is." I was glad I had bought a new SUV, thinking it would make a good family car. Nita got in and sank into the leather seats. "Very nice, Bud. You must be doing well." She had no idea what I was worth. I had a good salary for the area, but I made much more from my side business. "Oh, I do okay. Annie, stop playing with the buttons." She was raising and lowering the windows, clearly enjoying it. She looked a bit guilty, but then giggled. "Yes, Uncle Bud." The trip to the grocery store was quite an experience. I usually just grabbed what I needed and left quickly. But Annie tried to put every snack in the cart while Nita compared every item for the best deal. After 30 minutes, I felt like pulling my hair out. Nita smiled again. "You might as well get used to it. You'll have to do this sometimes." "Why would I have to shop?" "Because I might be in the hospital having our babies or at home recovering." I stopped dead in my tracks. She just giggled and kept walking. I finally snapped out of it and hurried after them. "What did you say?" "We'll talk later, honey. Now, are roast turkey sandwiches okay for tomorrow?" I didn't win that debate, but I did manage to slip back to the meat counter and get some steaks for dinner. Nita complained about red meat until I said I wouldn't make her one and we could get some fish for her. We were leaving when she noticed the big box store next door. We ended up looking at car seats there. "Does yours need replacing?" She smiled again. "How did I never notice that before?" "Mine is fine, honey. This one is for your car. We'll use it most for family trips. It's newer and has more room." I was carrying the car seat to the register when Annie ran off with Nita chasing her. Annie had seen the swing sets and was looking at the fanciest one. "Annie, honey, we can't afford that, and we have no place to put it." She grinned, looking a lot like Nita. "Uncle Bud has room at his house. We could put it there. We could even move in with him. Wouldn't that be great?" Nita smiled. "Very handy, baby. I might buy it if he agrees to that, but it's too soon. We need to show him how much we love him first." "But you already love him, and I think I do, too. We could try." I picked her up and handed the car seat to Nita. "You don't understand, sweetie. It's a grown-up thing. You'll get it when you're older, I promise. For now, let's say I'll think about the swing set. Okay?" She seemed satisfied and relaxed. I carried her out to the car. Nita held my hand on the way home. "Am I pushing too hard?" "You are for her," I said, checking on Annie in the mirror. "She's had a lot of changes in her life. Let's take it slow, okay?" "When you're ready, honey. When you're ready." We grilled the steaks, corn, and potatoes outside again. Nita explained to me, there's not much green space where we live, so she doesn't get outside much. That night, right after it got dark, I took them to the pond. We set up the lantern and cast our lines. Annie sat on my lap. 15 minutes later, she screamed. Her fishing rod bent down hard. I coached her through it, and she caught a nice catfish about 5 pounds. She was sad when I let it go, but I promised her we'd come back and catch more to eat. By the end of the night, she caught 3 fish, and Nita caught 2. "I caught more than you," Annie cheered as we walked back. "You had help, sweetie. Next time I'm sitting on his lap and he'll help me." "No, I'm sorry, Mommy." "You don't have to be sorry, baby. You just need to learn how to be kind to others." Then it was time for bath and bed. I read Annie a story from the book Nita had brought, and she was asleep in minutes. I went looking and found Nita in my bed. "No funny business, honey. I don't think you're ready. But I want to cuddle. I miss that almost as much as the love. Come to bed." It felt strange after all these years to hold her again. I was so confused I wasn't even thinking about anything else. She giggled and cuddled close to me, pulling my arms around her, and fell asleep in minutes. I thought I'd have another sleepless night when I felt someone tugging at my nose. I woke to see Annie giggling. "Mommy says you have to get up. Breakfast is ready and we need to leave soon. Hurry up." She wore herself out at the zoo, trying to see everything all at once. Once again, I carried a sleeping child to my car. We got into a routine. They would come over on Fridays and leave on Sundays. People around town got used to seeing us together, recognizing us as a family. Zippy made it official by inviting us over for a barbecue. Annie got to play with kids her age while the adults chatted. He pulled me aside and said, "I'm glad you're trying to get Nita back. We all know she has a hot temper. She made a mistake, but she's paid for it. Now, get moving and get her back. Neither of you have been the same since the divorce." Mama Rosa joined in. "That child is lucky to have a loving mother and father after all she's been through. Do what's right for her, too." Billy and June agreed. I thought about it for a few weeks and decided they were right. Luck was on my side. Nita usually finished work early on Fridays, but there was an emergency, and she called me in panic to pick up Annie from daycare. Annie ran into my arms, chatting and showing me off. It was all I could do to get her in the car seat for the drive home. During the ride, we had a serious talk. Her eyes got wide and she started crying. I freaked out, thinking I had said the wrong thing, but she was crying from happiness. She was calm by the time her mother got home, even though she was about to burst. "Mommy, come look!" She dragged her mom to the backyard. There was a huge swing set with swings, a clubhouse, and a slide. "Look, it's got everything. Do you like it?" "It's very nice, honey, and it's not even your birthday." Annie pretended to be sad, but then smirked. I was glad I wasn't on the receiving end for once. "Mommy, Daddy said there's a catch. I can't have the swing unless I live here. And since I can't live here without you, you have to live here too. Here, Daddy said this might help you decide." She handed her a brightly wrapped box. From where I hid, I could see the tears in Nita's eyes. Her hands shook as she unwrapped it. She gasped when she saw the ring and sat down on a swing, overwhelmed. Annie was so excited she could barely stand still. "Well, are you going to say yes? Daddy says we have to live here forever, and I'm going to get little brothers or sisters. I'll teach them to fish and everything else. It's going to be so much fun." "Well?" I stepped out from behind the tree. She saw me and started to cry, but smiled too. Then she stood up with a smirk. "I'll think about it, sweetie." She did think about it. 36 years later, with 3 more kids, 7 grandchildren, and 2 more on the way, we're still together. One thing we had to learn was not to worry if we didn't know where the other was. Nita got so bad, I threatened to take her phone away. I either trust you or I don't. I've decided I do, so stop calling so much. I'm not a full-time mom. I have to work. Do what you need to and stop worrying. She finally realized what I meant and quit her job the next day. She even threw away her birth control pills. She spent the next 2 decades taking care of the kids until they were all grown. Then we traveled the world, visiting warm and cold exotic places. Content at last, we settled into a quiet life. We started working with a group that helps kids in need, from newborns to teenagers. Some stayed with us for months. Many went to community college or trade school. The smartest ones got 4-year degrees. Things got tricky when I came home one day to find Nita nervous. I saw a little head with black curls peeking out. She finally coaxed the little girl out and held her. She was 4 and had been hurt badly. She had scars that would never fade. I looked at her and saw our future filled with dance recitals, driving lessons, sports games, and even dating. "Yes," I said. That was all I needed to say. Life continues and our circles just get bigger as we get older. Before entering the second story, let me know how long you liked the story so we can improve the quality of future videos. The comments area is always welcome. Thanks for listening. Story 2. Her new profession ended her marriage. I was really mad when she walked through the door 3 hours late. "Where have you been?" I had to get Chad ready and take him to school. Bobby was mad and I needed to get to work. She just shrugged. "Bill wanted us to work a few extra hours. He even paid us in cash so the government wouldn't take any. It'll make up for the time you missed, and Bob said you were the best worker he had. He'll get over it." "Did the phone stop working?" "You could have at least told me." "Sorry. I didn't think about it. I need to go to bed now and you need to go to work. I'll make us a good dinner to make up for it." She didn't give me a chance to answer before heading to the bedroom. I thought about following her, but I knew it would lead to a big fight, and I really needed to get to work. I was halfway to the job site when it hit me. That little smirk she had when she said she worked overtime. Something was wrong, and had been for a while. I tried to push it out of my mind. You need to focus when using saws and nail guns. It was 1983 and we were in a mild recession. I got laid off and my unemployment check was small. Then Gail got laid off and that really hurt us. We were really struggling. We were both looking for jobs, but many others were in the same situation. Jobs were hard to find, especially for her. She had dropped out of school in 10th grade, and there weren't many opportunities. Her last job paid minimum wage, but it was all she could get, and we needed the money to survive. Then I got lucky. A friend I hadn't seen in years called me. Bobby and I had worked construction together in the late 70s. He always said we made a good team and was sorry to see me leave, but I had found a good opportunity back then. He stayed in construction and eventually started his own small business. He mostly did remodels and property maintenance, though he built a house sometimes. While everyone else struggled, he did all right because of his maintenance contracts. His biggest client owned a lot of rental property in one county and some in another, keeping him busy. "Mac, buddy, Jack told me you got laid off. I just lost a couple of guys and thought of you. Want to help me out part-time?" Of course I did. He gave me directions to his next project and told me to be there at 7. After we hugged and caught up, he asked if I remembered how to hang siding. "Oh, I could probably fake it." He grinned, gave me 2 helpers, and let me loose. The other guys weren't very motivated, which I found strange in these hard times, but I pushed them, and we finished in 2 days. He had me replace windows in a couple of rental units. By the end of the week, I had 35 hours in. He handed out paychecks, and I was surprised when I saw mine. It was half of what I was owed. He just grinned and told me to meet him at the bar, a little place popular with construction workers. I walked in, he bought me a beer and handed me a pool cue. "We're going to play a game of pool. I will lose. When I do, I'll pay you what we bet." Strangely enough, it's exactly what it would be if I'd paid you for all the hours you worked. He grinned at my surprised look. "Remember, you told me you could make $60 and still keep your full unemployment check, right?" I nodded and he continued. "Well, the amount I paid you is a bit less than what you can earn without losing your check. That way, you get a full check and some extra cash they don't know about. Sometimes the amount will be over and sometimes under. I plan to pay you a full check about every 6 weeks. You'll lose your unemployment check that week, but it'll keep the authorities happy. Or you can be honest and report it all. Your choice." I thought about it while I drank my beer. I'd been to the unemployment office twice. Both times I felt like just a number and the workers were rude to everyone. "Forget about them. You need to practice. Your pool game is terrible." He just grinned. I was going to share the good news with Gail, but she was angry when I got home. "Where have you been? Do I smell beer? We don't have money for you to drink." I took a deep breath before I answered. "I went by the bar where Bobby hangs out to get my money. I had 1 beer and he paid for it. We have some extra money for our bills now. I got a little extra." I was going to say cash, but she interrupted, saying a few hours here and there wouldn't help much, and I needed to find a real job. "What did you have for lunch today? I hope it was something solid because I need you to magically find me a good job." "How about you? Have you found anything yet?" "You know nobody wants to hire someone who didn't finish high school. Well, you should take advantage of the program they offered and get your GED. It will help, if not now, then in the future. You complain about being stuck in the house. You could go in the evenings and I could watch Chad. Think about it." She had been resisting that idea, so she turned around and stomped off. I went out back and started playing with our son. He was in 1st grade, and the world was a wonder to him. He told me about what he'd learned that day, and I couldn't help but smile. He was a good kid, and even if I had to sacrifice, I made sure he had good clothes and shoes for school, and money for special things like the field trip to the aviary. By the time we were done playing, Gail had made dinner. We often ate mac and cheese with hot dogs, but we didn't go hungry. I never told Gail about the extra cash. I just used it to catch up on our power bill. I came home a few weeks later, and she gave me a big kiss. It surprised me because she hadn't given out many smiles lately. Guess what? I got a job. She had made a really nice dinner and was wearing shorts and a loose top, one of her cheerful outfits. I smiled, thinking life would get better. "That's great, honey. What is it?" "Let's eat first, get Chad ready for bed, and then I'll tell you all about it." This made me curious. What was so secret about a job? We had pork chops, a rare treat this year. The food was good, the cake even better. After Chad had his bath and bedtime story, she brought out a couple of my favorite beers. I hadn't bought them for months because they were a bit expensive. I was starting to feel uneasy. She poured the beers and sat across from my chair. "Honey, do you remember Honey?" Yes, I remembered Honey. She was one of her friends from when we were dating. To be honest, she had a bit of a reputation. I'm not one to judge, but Honey had no limits. She was very bold and once even tried to flirt with me in front of Gail. I acted interested and got her alone. As she leaned in to kiss me, I grabbed her neck and pushed her against the wall. "Listen up. If you try this again, I will hurt you. Understand?" She was crying and nodded. That was the last time I saw her until now. My unease was growing. From what I remembered, she had caused several divorces as the other woman. I nodded. "Well, I ran into her at the store the other day. When she found out I wasn't working, she offered me a job." "What kind of job? Is it something shady?" Gail turned red. "No, you jerk, it's not. She's married now and works for her cousin. He owns a motel in Charlotte, and she manages the night shift, 9 until 6. The lady she worked with just quit." "Why did she quit?" "How would I know? She just did, and the job pays well. $10 an hour. That sounded like good money compared to $6.65 an hour. I tried to be calm. "That's good money, Gail, but honestly, it makes me nervous. Is the motel in a safe area? You'll be working at night when things can get dangerous. I'd hate for you to get hurt or worse for $10 an hour. Also, I'm not thrilled about you working with Honey. She's different now. She's married and has a little girl. Plus, the cops patrol there and it's pretty safe. I promise if I feel uncomfortable, I'll quit." We talked more about Chad and how it would affect him. I finish at 6, can be home by 6:45, make breakfast, take him to school, then sleep. That way I can spend the evening with you and Chad before work. We talked it over and agreed to discuss it more later. Gail convinced me to have Honey and her family over for dinner. I have to admit she looked different. Her hair was up, she wore a modest top and pants, and she was pleasant. Her husband seemed like a nice guy. I wondered if he knew about her past. Her little girl was adorable, and Chad liked her a lot. They played in the backyard while I grilled. Gail and Honey laughed. "If he stays this smitten, we could be in-laws one day." It was a nice evening. The little girl napped after dinner, and Chad fell asleep on the floor. Her husband Jeff went to the bathroom, and Gail went to get more beer. I saw my chance. "Honey, do you remember our talk before Gail and I got married?" Her eyes widened, and she rubbed her neck. "That was a long time ago. I've changed. I like the new Honey better, but remember this. If anything bad happens to Gail and I think you had a hand in it, I will keep my promise. Do you understand?" Jeff came back and Gail returned with the beers. They stayed another hour before leaving. As their car lights faded, Gail started asking questions. "Did you see how much she's changed?" "Hard to believe. I never thought she'd be married with a child. Back then, if she ended up pregnant, half the men in the county would have been worried." She punched me lightly. "That's mean." "Maybe, but it could have been true. Let's clean up and get to bed." I thought about everything the next morning while mowing the grass. Honey, despite her past, was attractive. She was short, blonde, with blue eyes and a great figure. I would smile seeing her with Gail. Gail was taller, with black hair and a slender shape. She had a full chest, firm and lovely. Men flocked to Gail like flies to Honey, but she turned most of them away. Early on, she told me she wasn't a virgin, but I wasn't either, and it didn't matter to me after we got married. In the end, I didn't argue when she took the job. I made her promise a few things, though, and I still worried about her. I was up when she came home from her first day. "How was it?" I asked. "Boring as anything. Not much happens at a motel late at night. Everyone is asleep except for a few partygoers, but they don't make much noise. It's easy money, sweetie." She came home with her first paycheck, really happy. We decided to use her first month's income to pay down our bills, then start saving for a house. I was getting more work with Bobby, and I found I enjoyed it more than I remembered. Bobby kept asking me to go full-time if I didn't get another job by the time my unemployment benefits ran out. We were still bending the rules, with part of the pay reported and part of it paid under the table. I'd started saving half of the under-the-table money, hoping to take Gail and Chad on a vacation. It would be our first in 4 years, and Chad had never seen the ocean, so I wanted to take him to the beach. Everything went well for about 4 months. Gail came home excited one day and told me the night shift maid had quit. She and Honey, the other worker, were going to make extra money cleaning the empty rooms. One would work the desk while the other cleaned, and they would take turns. "Does that mean you'd be at the desk alone?" I asked. "Sweetie, no one comes to the desk after midnight, plus we have walkie-talkies. So if someone comes to the desk we don't like, we call each other. We'll be fine." The extra money was helpful. Then one day, Gail came home looking really tired. When I asked her what happened, she shrugged. "Tough night. A convention group was in and they left the rooms a mess. I cleaned toilets and carpets all night. Can you fix Chad's breakfast today?" I knew what a bad day was like, so I helped Chad get ready for school while she took a shower and then went to bed. She was quiet for a few days before she seemed to brighten up again. As weeks passed, she seemed to change. It started with small things. She stopped talking about her job, only saying it was the same old thing. She also started dressing better. I complimented her, and it seemed to make her happy. I felt kind of guilty spending the money, but I needed new clothes. I used some of the extra money I'm making and updated my wardrobe. There it was again, the little smile she had lately, like she knew a joke that I didn't. It started to bother me. Then changes happened in our intimate life. We used to get close about 3 times a week if our schedules allowed, mostly on weekends, but she started getting closer to me just after Chad went to bed 2 or 3 times a week, especially on Thursdays. She was more eager than before. I finally asked her about it. She seemed surprised and took a moment to answer. "I've never talked about this with you, but you see a lot working in a motel. Some couples come in every 2 weeks or so, doing things like leaving doors open or taking risks in the pool. They usually aren't with the same person each time. I think they are swingers. Some of the things Honey and I see are pretty wild. It's like watching a live show, and I can't help but get excited. That's why I'm more eager sometimes. I know we've never talked about it, but have you ever thought about us trying new things?" I had to think for a moment. Isn't that dangerous for the motel? What about the police or angry spouses? And I've never really thought about trying new things. Is that something you want to try? It's late at night, so no one is around. If we see a regular guest, Honey warns them, and they go inside and close the door. They tip really well, too, usually $20 per room. They paid for most of my new clothes, and yes, I think I'd like to try new things at least once to see what it's like. I started to dislike the idea of her working at the motel. We did try new things that weekend while Chad stayed with his grandparents. It was all right. Gail seemed really into it, almost joyful by the end. She didn't seem to feel any pain, but we had prepared with some special products. Then things started to change at home. She spent less time with us. I asked her what was wrong. "I'm just tired of struggling. It seems like every time we get ahead, something comes up and takes our money. Wouldn't it be nice to do what we want, when we want, like before we had bills and a kid?" "Everyone has dreams. Sure, I'd love it. But the truth is we have bills and a child. Want to drop everything, leave Chad somewhere and run away?" "I didn't think so. It's getting better, sweetie. Our bills are caught up and we're saving a little. I'm thinking about going full-time with Bobby. He'll give me a raise and more hours." It hurt me when she laughed at the idea. "You think that'll make a difference? You need a job with health insurance. We're all healthy now, but one accident will ruin us for years." I sighed. "It is what it is, Gail. Unless we find better jobs, we have to work with what we have." There it was again, that little smirk. Everything fell apart one day when I needed a pen. Chad often took everything you could write with into his room. He was an artist, and his work covered every inch of our refrigerator. He was asleep, and I didn't want to wake him, so I decided to grab one from Gail's purse. I never messed with her purse because it was always full of so much stuff that it annoyed me. I picked it up and noticed it was heavy. Usually the pens were right on top. I opened it and just sat there for a minute. It was full of money. A lot of money. I took it out and counted it. $2,300, which was a lot at the time. I heard Gail waking up, so I quickly put the money back and placed her purse back on the floor next to the couch. I sat thinking while she chatted. There was no way that money was legal. My first thought was that she might be involved with drugs. I decided not to say anything. I would follow her to work on Friday night. "Hun, Chad is going to be with your folks on Friday. Bobby and I are going fishing. He found a spot on the lake and says every catfish there is over 10 pounds. She smiled. "Go ahead. Have a good time. I'm looking forward to some salt and pepper catfish for dinner on Sunday. Catch a big one for me." She seemed to want to hang out, but I said I couldn't. I heard something at work today. I think I need an ice pack or a heating pad for my back. Gail was immediately concerned. She got me some pain pills, an ice pack, and plugged in the heating pad next to my chair. She kissed me when she left. Rest, honey. Don't go to work tomorrow. We can afford for you to take a day off. I'll check on you when I get home. She called me later, which she rarely did, to check on me. I told her I felt much better and wasn't doing anything tomorrow except painting, so I should be fine at work. She fussed a little, told me to take the day off, said she loved me, and hung up. I wasn't much use at work the next day. Bobby finally told us to take a break for lunch. Come on, Mac, I'm buying. We sat down at the little diner he liked, and after we ordered, he told me to spill whatever was on my mind, or he was sending me home. I really needed to talk to someone, so I told him about the money and her strange behavior. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to the motel tomorrow night to see what's happening. And if you see something you don't like, then I'll deal with it. Bobby sighed. Remember Jefferson George? Of course I did. He was the rich kid in school. His father had more money than half the town combined. I had caught him with a 14-year-old he had given some liquor to, and he was trying to get her in his car. She was pretty drunk, but she was fighting him as best she could. He finally got tired of it and slapped her hard. Get in the car and shut up! He didn't know anyone else was around, so I tapped him on the shoulder. He looked around, told me to get lost, and started to get in his car. The girl was my cousin. I beat him up pretty bad, broke teeth, gave him 2 black eyes, and sprained his left arm. I was about to do more when they pulled me off him. His dad pretty much owned the police, and someone had called 911. I've often thought I was luckier than I was smart, and this was never truer, because a state trooper had a car pulled over nearby and had just finished the ticket when the call came in. He took one look at the girl and Jefferson and called for an ambulance. Then he got statements from all the witnesses, and no one dared lie to him because he wasn't local. The local cops showed up and wanted to take over, but the trooper stopped them. Sorry, boys. I've already started the paperwork, so it's mine. I'll drop him off at the station for questioning when I finish up so you can do your own investigation. They didn't like it much, but they had no choice. He asked around, found out who my friends were, and told Bobby to find a phone and call my folks. Tell them to get down to the station as quick as possible. They might want to call a lawyer. He took his time, but finally had to put me in his car. There was no love lost between the state police and the local cops. I found out later they were investigating the police department for corruption and abuse of power. He talked to me as he drove. Listen, kid, there are things going on here you don't know about. I'm dropping you at the station. Do not say anything to anybody, understand? Good. Your parents will hopefully be there before we are, but just in case, refuse to be interviewed until they get there. We arrived at the station before my parents, so the trooper took his time releasing me to the locals. He pulled out a camera and took some pictures. The cop waiting to book me asked him why. Because there are no bruises on the boy. If any show up later, I'll have to investigate. Understand? The cop didn't like it, but he had nothing to say. My parents and Uncle Pete came through the door. The trooper asked for ID and released me to them. I'm not filing charges pending the investigation. My advice is to keep the kid close to home for a few days. We were about to leave when 2 cops stopped us. Not so fast. We're taking him into custody. You can bail him out on Monday. What's he charged with? The state has started an investigation and released him to his parents. I believe state overrides city, if I remember right. Since I'm a lawyer, I'm pretty confident that's the case. They changed tack. He's not under arrest. We just want to question him. For 2 days? Not gonna happen. I'll have him here for an interview Monday morning. I will be present when you question him. All questions go through me. Clear? I have orders to. Then get me the man who issued the orders. If you can't in a reasonable time, we're going home. There were a lot of whispers and phone calls, but an hour later we were home. Dad wrote a check and handed it to his brother-in-law. Here, a retainer. He laughed and tore it up. Write me one for $5. I'm tired of losing cases because some cops are corrupt. Maybe this case will change that. When the dust settled, nobody was arrested. Mr. Moneybags backed off after reading about his son's blood alcohol level, the girl, and the witness statements. Many people didn't like Jefferson and said he threw the first punch. He got his revenge. They expelled both of us, and he sent his son to a boarding school for his senior year. I couldn't walk at graduation and had to go to summer school to get my diploma. Bobby brought me back to the present, and I nodded. Remember what it cost you to mess him up? I know you. You're not much for planning. You just rush in. You need to stop and think when you find out what's going on. Don't do anything stupid. Remember Chad? Make sure nothing happens to him. He was right, damn it. You're right, but I have to do something. We are going to check out this motel tomorrow. If we see anything strange, we'll think before we act. Do you understand? It seemed like a good plan, so I agreed. Friday night at 11, we were parked in an empty lot across from the motel. It was my first time seeing it. It wasn't run down, but it wasn't fancy either. I was surprised to see how full the parking lot was. We had binoculars, and I saw Honey behind the counter, but there was no sign of Gail. At 11:30, a woman who looked like Gail walked out of the motel and across the parking lot to a privated club. I started to get out of the car when Bobby pulled me back in. Stay put. She doesn't know me well, so I'll put on this cap and see what's going on. Don't get out of the car. 90 minutes later, he was back, looking pale and uncomfortable. He just sat for a moment before speaking. She's stripping, Mac. Her stage name is Desire, and she's pretty good at it. I saw her perform, then she took 3 guys into the back for lap dances. The bouncer told me that's all they allow inside, but the women have a deal with the motel, and as long as they take their business off-site, no one says anything. I asked for Desire, and he laughed. She's booked full tonight and doesn't work weekends. I think she has a kid she sees then. She works Tuesday and Thursday next week and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday the next. She and a girl named Honey rotate. I think she works at the motel on the nights she doesn't work here. Want me to set you up? I gave him a 50. I'd like a Wednesday, but I don't know if I can make it. If I'm not here by midnight, I won't be coming. She's expensive. $25 for a meeting, $50 for full service, and $1 for any extras. I think he talked like that because he thought I was a cop. I gave him another 50. Here, if I'm not here on time, it's her money. While we talked, Gail came out of the club with a man on her arm and went straight to the motel, waving at Honey as she passed. By 3, she'd made 2 more trips. I was numb when Bobby started the truck. We've seen enough. You need to calm down and think about what you want to do. Let's go fishing. What? We're supposed to be fishing, remember? Besides, what better place to make plans than at a quiet lake in the middle of the night? So we fished. We even caught a few, but mostly we talked. What are you going to do? Divorce her. I don't see any other way. I need to keep Chad. I don't want him exposed to what she's doing. All right, we need to gather evidence and catch her in the act. Any ideas? I think the local cops are in on it. We saw them cruise the parking lot 3 times, remember? They have to know what's going on. That's when I thought about the state trooper. He was key in taking down the corrupt local cops and got promoted to the SBI. He mostly worked on corruption cases now. I'd see him in the papers every now and then. I think I know someone who might help. I made it through the weekend. Even had dinner with her once, acting like everything was fine. She stayed close to Chad, paying him more attention than usual. He ate it up. He'd really been missing his mom lately. That made what I was going to do even harder. I called first thing Monday, and they put me through after 20 minutes. He remembered me, and we talked about the past before he asked what I needed. I told him everything, including that one of the stripper hookers was my wife, and that the local cops seemed involved. He listened and made notes. Can you meet me and my partner there tonight? I had to drop Chad off with my folks, telling them it was an emergency. We met at a diner and talked. He introduced his partner, a redhead, and suggested we ride together in their undercover car. I thought it would be a plain 4-door car that screamed, "Undercover Cop," but it was a nice 3-year-old T-Bird. They laughed when they saw my face. We confiscated it in a drug bust a few years back. That's how we get most of our undercover cars. We switch every month. We get the Firebird next. Lieutenant Brown, the man I knew, laughed. Yeah, and when we do, I'm driving. Detective Walters has a lead foot. They shared friendly banter while we got into position. I identified Gail and Honey. They watched Honey go into the club. First, Brown got out. I'm going in to see what I can learn, then Tabby will be up. We talked as we waited. Won't it be awkward going into a place like that? She laughed. I danced in a club for 3 years while I paid my way through college. That's all I did. I never even gave lap dances. I saw too many relationships fall apart to ever be tempted. Now, I'm thinking of moving to a new area. I'll go in, try to get an interview with the manager, and tell him I'm planning to move and need a job. I have some old photos from my dancing days if he needs to see them. She had just finished telling me about her lawyer husband and her 2 daughters. She smiled when she saw my surprised face. My husband knows. We met at the club. He worked his way through law school as a bartender and bouncer. He knew I never went with any guys, and I knew he never touched any of the working girls, even though they tried hard. I finally claimed him to get them to back off. We went on a few dates to prove it and never looked back. It's been 7 years now, and we're as happy as the day we got married. She looked at me sadly. Don't judge your wife just yet. She may have been forced into this. I've seen it happen. If that's true, you should get counseling and try to save your marriage. If she's doing it by choice, well, how it ends is up to you. Brown came back, not smiling. I got the same info your buddy got. There are about 6 girls in on it. This is shaping up to be a big prostitution ring. There's a picture of your wife along with other dancers on the wall. If there's a red X with a circle at the bottom, it means she's available for extra services. Tabby, you're up. Tabby was gone for about 30 minutes. She did not look happy when she got back. The place is just above a brothel. I got to see the manager, showed him my old photos, and told him I would be available in 5 weeks. The sleazebag admitted that many of his girls hook, but he ignored it. He also tried to get me to do inappropriate stuff as a gesture of good faith. I just grinned and said we'd talk about it when I got the job. I need a shower pretty bad right now. They took me back to the diner. This is where your involvement ends. I'm really sorry, man. It's pretty clear you loved her. So what's going to happen now? We'll get a small team on this. It'll take about a month before we move. Watch for it in the paper. The strip club, cops involved, and the motel will all go down. We'll shut the strip club down, close the motel, and the crooked cops will lose their jobs and face charges. All the women involved will be charged with prostitution. The public will know. The silver lining is, you have a good reputation and a steady job, and judges don't like giving custody of kids to prostitutes if there's a better choice. You're going for divorce, right? I have to. I couldn't forgive her, and I can't expose a 6-year-old to that lifestyle. Tabby touched my hand. We usually avoid divorce cases to stay out of the news, but if you need us, we can help through your lawyer. It hit me. There's no way I can act normal for that long. I'm just not that good at it. What can I do? Brown grinned. This is a big case. We won't want it blowing up too soon. You said you worked construction? Let me see what we can do. Hang on for a few days and we'll get back to you. True to his word, 2 days later we got offered a short-term contract to help build a new jail halfway across the state. Aside from what was going on, they were offering really good money, and it would have been hard to turn down even under normal circumstances. Bobby knew what was going on. He knew why we got the contract, but didn't care. I told Gail that night. Good news. You know how we're trying to figure out how to make more money? Bobby got a job offer from an old friend. His project is running behind, and he's facing fines if he doesn't finish on time. We'll be making half again what we're earning now. It'll be 7 days a week for about a month. But with overtime, it'll be like making 4 months' pay. I have to do this, honey. It may lead to more opportunities. Surprisingly, she was not happy and tried to talk me out of it. I used every argument she ever gave me about improving our lives, which seemed to stall her reasons for me to stay home. It's only for a month, honey. I'd hate to go that long without you, but think of the reunion when I get back. A whole month without. We'll be sore the first few days. Gail went quiet, knowing she wouldn't be going without. I set up help with her parents and mine, gave her and Chad a big kiss, and left. I wasn't lying about the overtime. They were so far behind they were happy to let us work 7 days a week. It was a new minimum security prison, and the cells were built to look more like dorms. The only difference was there was no kitchen and the cells were 8 by 8, each with a sink and toilet. It was a plumbing nightmare. Our job was siding and roofing. They were the biggest buildings I'd ever sided, and we managed to get 2 done each week. There were only 6 left when we got there, so by the last week we were looking for work. Bobby ran a sheetrock crew while I helped the plumbers. It was irritating crawling around under the buildings, but the plumbing contractor paid me extra for running a crew. 4.5 weeks later, the only thing left was the fence around the property. Without the fence, the place didn't look like a prison. The contractor told me they did it on purpose so the prisoners wouldn't want to escape as much. I asked him if it helped. Reports say escapes are down 44% in places like this. We still need fences and guards for those who might try, but the state is happy with the results. I called home from a payphone twice a week for about 30 minutes. Chad would tell me about his week and ask when I was coming home. Gail talked about everyday stuff and also asked when I was coming home. I told her the next week was my last and I'd be home the following Tuesday. Sometimes I'd ask about her job, but she always brushed it off. The last time we talked, she surprised me. "I'm thinking about quitting, honey. I miss sleeping next to you every night. Plus, I feel us drifting apart. I still love you." That was something new. I called Brown. "I'm glad you called. I was about to call you. Watch the news Friday night. It'll happen then." I was silent for a minute. He noticed. "Having second thoughts?" "Yeah. I've loved her for a long time. This will be hard on our child." "It will be. But if you want custody, this is the only way. We don't charge her, she won't have a record, but if she finds a nice judge, you end up a part-time dad. You don't want that. I'll explain more later, but things have changed." Friday night, I called to hear her voice one last time. "I've been thinking. Maybe you should stay home tonight. I'll come home, we can get Chad and be at the beach in 3 hours. Think how happy he'd be. Think how happy we'd be." There was a pause before she spoke. "It's too late to find someone to cover for me, and I don't want Honey to be there alone. I'll come home Saturday and take a nap while you get everything ready. We can leave by 1, be checked in and on the beach by 5. Let's try to spend a week together. It'll do us good." I sighed. I'd tried. "All right, see you tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. We need to catch up. Gotta go. I love you." "I loved you too." I wondered if she'd caught what I said. Bobby and I watched the news at 11 that night. We were in another city, but it came up in the statewide section. The SBI Prostitution Task Force carried out a raid at the Dreamland Motel in Charlotte, North Carolina, breaking up a major prostitution ring. 14 people were arrested, including the motel owner and 2 night managers. The owner provided a place for the prostitution. The managers were part of the ring. The manager of the Fantastic Ladies Lounge next to the motel was also arrested, though his charges are not yet public. There's a rumor he was involved in human trafficking. As the reporter spoke, we saw people being led out of the motel to a police van. Honey was first, in just a t-shirt. Gail was behind her, in a very short skirt and top. The camera zoomed in on Gail's crying face. It seemed neither had on underwear when they were taken to the van. Bobby looked at me. "Sorry, dude. I know you loved her, but you had to do this for Chad." "Everyone says I did the right thing. But why does it feel so bad?" "Because usually doing the right thing is the hardest thing to do. You had no idea this would happen when you married Gail or when she worked at that motel. Bad things happen to good people. It's how they deal with it that shows their character. Now, I'm going to leave you alone. Cry, scream, break stuff if you want. Just try to get enough out so you can function when you need to go home to your child. You know I'm here for you." After he left, I tried to cry. I thought about drinking. I thought about wrecking the motel room. In the end, I didn't do any of those. I just sat there, numb, all night. Bobby found me and didn't say a word, starting the shower and pushing me inside. The hot water hit me and I cried. I felt better when I got out. "Let's go. You're driving." I slept most of the way home. Their bail was set at $2,000 each. She had the money but couldn't access it, and there was no way I was paying it. The longer she stayed in jail, the more certain I'd get Chad. He didn't understand. I tried to explain. "Son, your mother got involved with bad people and did some bad things. She won't be living with us right now, so we're on our own. She still loves you, but she can't be with us now." "So she's coming home later?" "I don't know, son. We'll have to see." I tried to ease him into understanding that Mommy wouldn't live with us anymore. I was just glad it was summer. Kids can be mean, and I hoped by the time school started again, everyone would forget. Both sets of grandparents helped watch Chad while I worked. We often ate dinner with whichever set had him. At first, it was awkward with her parents. They apologized for Gail, but I shut them down. She made her choices, so I had to make mine. I need you to understand that your daughter and I have no future together. None. But it's her choices, not yours. Chad loves you, and I would never come between you and your grandchild. If it helps, I've always thought highly of you. If you feel uncomfortable around me or it becomes too hard to keep Chad, let me know. Her dad just looked sad. Her mom hugged me and cried a lot. When she stopped, she said she'd expect Chad in the morning and me in the afternoon. Meatloaf tomorrow. I hugged her again and shook his hand, wondering how they were dealing with the shame of what Gail did. It was a small town, after all. I just hoped there weren't too many gossips. It took her 10 days to get out of jail. By then, I had all her stuff boxed up in her parents' garage. I sent her a letter with the divorce papers, telling her to stay away from me. I also said that after the divorce, I'd like to ask her why she did it. When she got out, she went straight to her parents' house. I'm not sure what she expected, but they told her she had 2 weeks to move out. I heard she and Honey rented an apartment in Charlotte. I thought that was good. They deserved each other. Lieutenant Brown called me a week later. I thought you'd want an update and to know when this goes to trial. After they got bail, we made it clear that if they left the state, we'd come after them. Both she and her partner share an apartment now. They don't work at the motel or the club because the city took them over, but they've found jobs at other clubs. I don't know if it's just dancing or more than that, but I don't think it is. If they get caught for prostitution again before the trial, it could go badly for them. I doubt they'll get much jail time. If they do, it will probably be 3 to 6 months. The motel owner and club manager face more serious charges. I doubt they'll get their property back. The DA is up for election this year, so he'll be tough on them. I think a couple of years in jail for both is likely. They could get more, but they made deals and gave us information on 3 sex traffickers and 2 big drug dealers. We're keeping this quiet because if it gets out, their lives would be in danger in jail. Her arrest and likely conviction will be public record, which should help you keep your child. I'm really sorry for how your life turned out, but I'm sure the girls we saved from traffickers will be grateful. We followed them through 4 states and into Mexico. Watch the news. What you see is because you came to us. We can't thank you enough. There were many stories about traffickers in the next few months, but I was too focused on my own problems to pay much attention. She got a lawyer and tried to stop the divorce, and no one, including her lawyer, understood why. I went with Uncle Pete, and he said it was an easy case. Her lawyer was good, and we had some serious discussions. Oddly enough, one was about money. She wanted half and full unsupervised visits if she didn't get custody. We met in her lawyer's office. It was the first time I'd seen her in 4 months. She looked very different. Her hair, her eyes, her clothes were all very different from when we were married. I guess she was good at business, Pete started. I think we're being very fair here. He wants 70% of the assets and he waives rights to child support. How is that not fair? Her lawyer, who must be expensive, said, that's not acceptable. She wants 50% full custody and child support. Pete countered. 50-50, he gets custody of the child with supervised visits at first. If Mrs. Stoneman proves trustworthy, the supervision may be dropped. Plus, she will pay child support. The lawyer started to speak when Pete put down a bank statement. 50-50 includes this money, an account that wasn't revealed. There was $14,000 in it when our clients separated, and any judge will notice it was hidden. Gail's face turned pale. She didn't know her secret account had been found. I had gone into her purse before the arrests and took a picture of the bank book, making sure to get the account and routing numbers. I don't think her lawyer knew about it either, judging by his face. The lawyer asked for another meeting later. For the first time, I spoke. No, take it or leave it, Gail. If you fight, I'll reveal a lot of your secrets. Any judge would then give me a restraining order against you. If you love Chad, sign the papers. If money is more important, the next time you see him will be in pictures from his high school graduation. I walked out, surprising Uncle Jake. He talked for a few minutes before coming out. You need to tell me when you're going to do things like that. Is she going to sign? Her lawyer is talking to her. He knows she has no choice but to sign. Now tell me about her secrets. Laughing, I told him I made it up. He grinned. Well, she must have secrets she doesn't want anyone to know, judging by her reaction. I think she'll sign. Everyone, especially her old friends, thought I was being too harsh. Forget them. Let them fight for their child's safety and see how forgiving they would be. I did offer Gail a chance, letting her visit Chad for 3 hours while her parents watched. The divorce went through before the trial, but I made sure I was there when it started. Gail and Honey told a sad story of Bill giving them drugs, and then they agreed to undress while high. It turns out he did many illegal things at the motel. The swingers were caught, and many of them were married, just not to each other. 3 divorces happened because of the scandal. Honey's husband divorced her too, and Uncle Jake got custody of their girl. It also came out that Bill was sleeping with both women as part of his fee for using the hotel. I wondered how closely related he was to Honey. They had to get their clients to pay $15 for the room, and they usually had 4 customers each night, so he was making double what the room cost. The judge felt sorry for them being tricked into this life, but noted both women tested clean for drugs. It seemed that after they started, they didn't need drugs anymore. In the end, they got 3 months in county jail. They were crying as they were taken away. I got $2,000 in cash and $50 a week in child support. Gail could see Chad twice a week under the supervision of child services, but after 2 months she could visit him without supervision if it was at her parents' house. Chad started to pull away from her, and one day she sent a note through her parents. She took a job with a big company and would travel up and down the East Coast performing in clubs for 6 weeks at a time. She said it was so the customers could see new faces. Gail gave up her visitation rights but pleaded to see him when she was nearby. The next year she went out west and ended up in Las Vegas. Well, at least what she was doing was legal there. Chad still got expensive gifts for his birthday and Christmas, along with letters when he was old enough. He adapted well to living with just one parent, especially since he had both sets of grandparents always around. I remarried when he was 12 to a woman about 5 years younger than me. She had a little girl who was 7, so we sold our houses and bought a bigger one to fit everyone. Chad was a little reserved at first, but Melody followed him everywhere and he warmed up to her. He surprised Katie, my new wife, by calling her mom about a year later. She tried to hide her tears, but we all saw them. I took some of the money I made from the lawsuits against Bill and the club manager and bought a half share in Bobby's business. B&M Construction grew into a mid-sized business with a good reputation. We did a lot of work for the state through the contractor we worked with when I was hiding from Gail. When Chad was 24, he came to me with something serious to talk about. "I've met someone, Dad. I think she could be the one, and I want to bring her over to meet you and Mom. She wants to bring her parents along, if you don't mind. I think he's nervous about facing you alone." I thought it was odd, but agreed to have them over for steaks on the grill. Melody was 17 by then and a handful. Our house was always full of her friends, both girls and boys. She was off to college in a year. The house would feel empty without her. We told her to send her friends home that night and be on her best behavior. Chad showed up an hour before we planned with his girl. I could see why he liked her. She was a cute little thing, just barely over 5 feet tall, with a dimpled face and long blonde hair. She was well built, too. Katie saw me looking and grinned. I think she approved of her when the girl offered to help with the food. I laughed and handed Chad a beer. "She'll know more about her before dinner than you'll learn in your entire life." "Pam is a good girl, Dad. She lost her first mother even younger than I lost mine, and her stepmother is the only mom she's known. The woman is very protective of her. I was afraid to hold her hand in front of her for months." Then her parents came in. Her dad shook my hand and smiled. "You don't remember me, do you?" I had to admit I didn't. He laughed. "That's okay. I was your guest about 18 years ago. Chad was 6 and Melody was 2. Even then, I think he was interested in her. I'm Jeff, Honey's ex." I shook his hand. "So that means—" "Yep, Melody is Honey's daughter. Let me assure you, she's nothing like her mother. She's a good girl, and I won't threaten you if something goes wrong. I'll let Amber do that." Amber was tall, easily 6 feet, and very muscular. She smiled to soften her words, but made it clear she was serious. "I own a dojo and hold a black belt in 3 different styles. Amber holds 2. She can take care of herself, but just in case, if she gets hurt, you might want to disappear." Melody and Katie had come outside and were laughing. "Mom, you've known him for 3 minutes and already making threats? You must be getting soft. I remember when you'd start with that. Now come inside and meet my groom's mother." She stopped, turning red and covering her mouth. I had a feeling she wasn't supposed to say that. Amber and Katie stood still for a moment. Then they both yelled and hugged Pam. They even started dancing. Soon, Melody joined them too. Chad and Jeff looked at me. What should we do? Let's get out of here. Let's go hang around the grill. I've got a cooler of beer and they won't even miss us. We were on our second beer and about to serve the steaks when they finally remembered us. Still smiling, they sat down and let us serve them like the queens they were. They stayed for 4 hours before they had to leave. The women were in the den looking at wedding dresses on the computer. The men went to the kitchen. Jeff looked at me. When was the last time you saw Gail? It's been at least 15 years. What about you and Honey? 12 years. You know there's no way to keep her away once she finds out. I know. I should probably email Gail, though I don't know if she'll want to come. She will. She and Honey are still close. Honey will tell her as soon as she knows. Jeff was right. Honey and Gail came to the wedding and sat in the back, tearing up tissues quickly. Even though Chad did not really remember his mother, he was polite to her. He let her be in some photos and even did a mother-son dance with her. She cried the whole time. I danced with Amber while Jeff danced with Katie. Then Chad danced with both women. When Katie came off the dance floor, she was sniffling. She grabbed my hand and mouthed, "Later." I was watching the couples dance when someone grabbed my hand and pulled. It was Gail. Dancing with her felt strange, but she didn't say anything. She just held me tightly and then left quickly when the music stopped. I did not dance with Honey, but Jeff did. I watched Amber watching them and wondered if Honey knew how angry Amber was. The women went into a room to help the bride out of her dress. I took the chance to sit down in a small nook, enjoying the quiet. I thought about getting older and smiled at the idea of grandchildren. Then a hand landed on my shoulder. It was Gail. I started to get up, but she held me down. Please stay seated. I owe you an explanation, and I need to tell you now. Can I sit? I pushed a chair out with my foot, and she smiled. After she sat, she said it was more than she expected. I started to speak, but she put her hand on my lips, a surprisingly familiar gesture. Please don't talk. Just listen so I can get this out. She sighed. I did it for the money. We were broke and struggling all our lives. Then I had a chance to make real money. Honey talked me into it. She even took me to the club and had me watch while she danced. She was really good. Then Bill offered us some Coke and we took it. You weren't around much in the early days, so you might not know, but I used to be a party girl and Coke wasn't new to me. The stuff he had was almost pure. It wasn't long before I lost touch with reality. I woke up in bed with Bill and Honey. He had been with both of us. I screamed and ran out. Honey got me into an empty room, calmed me down, and helped me shower. She had, things to clean up, so we both used them. I remember her words. They're now all clean. Mac will never know. And you didn't. I thought you'd see me and yell, whore. When you didn't, I calmed down. A few days later, he offered us more. I took it after he promised he wouldn't touch me. I woke up at 4 a.m. in bed with 2 men I had never seen before. I quit Coke and never used it again. Bill laughed and said my cut was $100. I never took the money. Bill disappeared for a while and Honey and I stayed. She did teach me some dance moves and I was always a good dancer. Then the washing machine broke down. Honey told me I could make enough in one night to buy a new one. I hated doing laundry at the laundromat, so I tried it. I thought I would be embarrassed and terrible, but I felt a rush, especially when they started throwing money on the stage. Honey collected it for me, and I had $180. People back then worked hard all week and didn't make that much. Then Honey said the real money was in talking to the crowd. She talked me into wearing a small outfit and mingling. I got pinched, touched, and even had someone touch me inappropriately while pretending to give me money. I got another 140 from that. I was high on adrenaline and whiskey when we got back to the motel. Bill said we owed him for covering for us. Honey pulled me down with her and we, did something to thank him. Honey and I had a schedule. I worked Monday, Wednesday, and Friday one week. She took Tuesday and Thursday. Then we switched the next week. I didn't fool around with anyone but Bill during that time, and he was with me twice a week. She sighed and took a drink before she continued. I didn't sleep with anyone else until my car broke down. I needed $800 fast. I had just finished dancing when a drunk guy offered me $200 to be with him. I hesitated, but then grabbed his hand and took him across the parking lot. Honey had, stuff to make it easier, but it still hurt a lot. My customer thought I liked it because I moved and made noises, but I was trying to stop the pain. He gave me a $50 tip. Then Honey helped me clean up. I went back on stage and then took another man to a room for some basic stuff. I charged him $100 and he gave me a $20 tip for cleaning up after. That night, between 2 customers and dancing tips, I earned enough to fix my car. After that, things got more intense. Bill called me to his office and said the customers had to pay $15 to use a room. I didn't want it to come out of my pay, so I made them pay. Things kept getting worse until we got arrested. We never knew how they found out about us. Bill paid off some cops and gave us to them sometimes for a bit of fun, so everyone was happy. She paused for a moment, clearly upset, but held my hand when I tried to stand up. I need to tell you that in my messed up mind back then, I convinced myself I was doing it for us, so we could have a better life. I even set a goal. I aimed to save $60,000 and then quit, find a little job somewhere and tell you I was making more than I really was. I wanted to slowly put the money back into our accounts, but we got caught, and that never happened. Gail stood up. That's it. I got greedy and stupid, and it cost me everything. It took me years to accept it, but I've moved on. I'm a successful business person now. She handed me a card. Give this to Chad. Tell him I thank him for the invite, but he has enough family for now. Tell him if he has kids to send me pictures. She paused at the door. Oh, and tell him to never go down the path I did. You either. He can reach me by phone or email. If I can help, I will. Goodbye, Mac. I doubt we'll see each other again, so live well. Love your wife and daughter and protect them as best you can. She smiled as she walked out the door. Yes, I name my business after you. Consider it a mark of respect. Then she was gone. I looked at the card. Max, a gentleman's club of excellence. Her number was on the back. I was still there when Katie found me. Come on, she said, pulling on my hand. Let's go home and recover. I grinned as Melody came up to us. Don't get too comfortable. We'll have to do it all over again in a few years, and it will be much harder then. We'll deal with it. Hey, audience. If you liked this video and want to keep up with more thrilling stories, make sure to subscribe to Prince Cheating Tales and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on our upcoming adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next wonderful story.